What if everything that was yours was ripped away right in front of your eyes? What if the promises of God, the ones you fought so hard for, suddenly seemed to vanish? The enemy came to steal, kill, and destroy. And let's be honest, the battle's been intense. He may have taken your peace. He may have attacked your family. Maybe you're sitting there asking yourself, how am I ever going to get back what I lost? Why should I even try when I don't have a reason to fight anymore? I've got nothing left. You've convinced yourself that happiness is something you'll never experience again. I get it. I know how hard it is to stand back up when the enemy keeps knocking you down over and over again. It feels like he's throwing everything he has at you, stealing your joy, draining your strength, ripping away your peace. But let me ask you this. Have you ever stopped to wonder why he's trying so hard to stop you? Maybe, just maybe, it's because he knows your worth. Sometimes the enemy knows more about your value than you do. He knows that if you get back up, what God has planted in you will shake the gates of hell. And he's terrified that you might figure out what you're capable of. Let me tell you about a woman who became an expert at reclaiming what was lost. The Shunammite woman in 2 Kings 8. Years before this story, this woman showed extraordinary generosity. She welcomed the prophet Elisha into her home, offering him a room to stay in whenever he passed through her town. Elisha, moved by her kindness, asked what he could do for her. Now, just like you, she had a deep desire in her heart. Maybe for you it's something you've been praying about for years. A healing, a restored relationship, peace in your family, or a breakthrough in your life. This woman had long given up hope of ever having a child. She had stopped talking about it, stopped believing it could ever happen. She was so afraid of disappointment that she wouldn't even let herself hope anymore. Isn't that what we do sometimes? We reject God's promises out of fear. Fear that we won't know how to handle it. Fear that we'll get hurt again. Fear that the dream will slip through our fingers. Sometimes, the pain of losing something you've had is greater than the pain of never having it at all. But even when she wasn't talking about it, God knew the desire of her heart. He used Elisha to prophesy over her life that she would have a son. And sure enough, a year later, God fulfilled the promise that seemed impossible. But after some time, the very promise of God slipped through the Shunammite woman's hands. The son she had dreamed of for so long passed away suddenly in her arms. Have you ever been there? You dream about something for what feels like forever, and then, when God finally gives it to you, the dream falls apart right in front of your eyes. It seems like there's nothing you can do to stop it. And this woman hadn't done anything wrong. She had trusted God. She had believed. She obeyed. And still, her miracle was taken from her hands. Maybe you believed in something. You clung to a promise. You trusted with everything you had. But still, you watched everything fall apart right before your eyes. But here's what I love about this woman. She refused to let death have the final word in her story. Instead of burying her son, she laid him on Elisha's bed, and without telling anyone, she set out to find the prophet. And she wasn't looking for comfort in her loss. She wanted her miracle back. She didn't ask for the strength to simply accept her situation. She asked for her situation to change and align with God's promise. You need to know this. God will never fail to fulfill a promise in your life, even if it means turning your entire reality upside down to make it happen. There is no circumstance, no difficulty, no problem that stands a chance against the power of God. And that's exactly what the Shunammite woman got, a resurrection. The prophet Elisha intervened, and by the power of God, her son was raised from the dead. Her miracle was restored. At this point, we already see that this woman had every reason to trust in the greatness of God. But the story doesn't end there. Let's fast forward to 2 Kings 8. Elisha, who had now become a close family friend, received a revelation from God. A great famine was coming to the land. Elisha warned the woman and told her to take her family and flee to wherever she could, because the famine would last for 7 years. And once again, she obeyed the word of God spoken through the prophet. She took her family and left everything behind, seeking refuge in a foreign land for 7 long years, waiting for the famine to pass. Now imagine this. After all those years of trusting God and enduring hardship far from home, she returns, only to find out that everything she had, her land, her possessions, her security, had been taken from her. Maybe you've lost some things that really mattered to you while you were just trying to survive. You might have obeyed God, done exactly what He asked of you, and still didn't see the results you were expecting. But just like before, she didn't sit back and accept the loss. Oh no, she stood up, went straight to the king and said, "I refuse to give up what's rightfully mine." And here's where the perfect timing of God comes into play. While the Shunammite woman was standing before the king, pleading for what was hers, God was already orchestrating the moment. At the exact time she walked into the king's chamber, Gehazi, Elisha's servant, was there telling the king about the miracles performed by the prophet, including the incredible miracle of the resurrection of her son. This wasn't a coincidence. It was the hand of God aligning every detail, every moment. The king, moved by this incredible testimony, didn't just return the land she had lost. He went beyond. He ordered that everything, all the profits, all the harvests from the 7 years she had been away, be fully restored to her. God didn't just give back what she had lost. He gave her more than she could have ever dreamed. That's the God we serve, a God who isn't just interested in restoring what was stolen, but who wants to bless you with abundance. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a beautiful story, but what about me? How do I apply this to my life? Here's what you need to remember. The same God who was at work in Elisha's time, the same God who restored the Shunammite woman's life, is the same God who is working in your life right now. Centuries have passed, but He still honors every promise He's made to His children, even when you don't see it, even when everything seems to be falling apart. God is aligning the pieces, putting the right people in the right places, preparing the circumstances so that you can walk in victory. You might be walking through your own season of famine right now. It may seem like everything you've worked for has been lost. But here's the truth. When you can't see God's hand moving, that's when He's working the most. Sometimes God's silence isn't His absence, it's His preparation. But you've got to be bold enough to come face to face with the King and say, "I want back what was taken from me." Not just some of it, not just the bare minimum, but everything that was stolen. My peace, my health, my finances, my time, everything. You've been quiet for too long. You've let the enemy rob you of your hope, but now is the time to declare that restoration is yours. And just like it was with the Shunammite woman, God will bring back what's been lost in your life, and He's going to give you more than you ever imagined. So let me ask you, what has the enemy stolen from you? Are you ready to reclaim it? Because God is ready to restore it all. You just have to believe it.